So this storage unit is the Toyota's current home. Wondering why? It's because this is the Toyota's current state. And the engine is...
So this is me disconnecting anything connecting this engine to the vehicle. If you missed the last video after I installed the head back on after blowing the head gasket and doing that full repair, I then had an oil pressure problem which caused the car to run terribly and sound like this.
There it is. Oh my god, I hate it.
I replaced the oil pump, being about 98% certain that that wasn't the problem, but it was worth a shot before taking the engine out and jumping into all this work. If you can, do me a huge favor and like the video, subscribe to the channel. I have much more coming out in the future on this car and others, including repairs and upgrades, and comment down below your initial guess at what the problem is. My guess is it's the main bearings. After getting Grandma's approval, we were set to keep on working. The way the engine was on the crane, I wasn't able to get the right angle to put it on the engine stand, so I had to drop it and readjust. After that, we were set to get the car to the storage unit until the engine is ready for it, so I got one of these little U-Haul dollies and we end up at
the Toyota's current home.
Once we got done with that, we're free to start tearing this bad boy apart, and the first step is to drain the oil. I had a little helper this day, and you're going to see him a few times throughout the video. Now, I didn't get the part where I removed the bolts, but the next thing we're going to do is remove the oil pan. And believe me when I tell you, this thing was on there. So I got to work with the hammer and a chisel. Don't worry, any damage I do to the oil pan, I'll end up fixing later on. As we get to removing any pulleys and accessories on the side of the engine, I feel like this is a good time to mention that if you see me doing anything wrong or just have any tips, please drop them down in the comments. I'm by no means an expert and I'm always willing to learn. This is my first engine rebuild after all. Here my nephew was having fun with it being his first time using tools, and I was mainly just concerned about labeling and bagging up any loose bolts to make my life easier when putting this thing back together. Now that we've got everything out of the way, I'm going to start working on getting the timing cover off. At this point, my nephew gets picked up for basketball practice, leaving me all alone for the rest of the day. Bittersweet. Timing cover is off. Now I'm going to get to the valve cover. That means ignition coils, wires, absolutely anything that's in the way of it. Now that's done, I'm going to move on to the timing chain, its tensioner, the oil pump's chain. This then makes it easy to get the oil pump itself off as it's only held up by a few bolts. Then we're going to get to the upper oil pan, and in just a bit my true genius is going to start to show. At this point, I believe I've gotten all of the bolts holding the upper oil pan to the main engine block. So I start using a pry bar in these slots it has specifically to be able to separate it from the block. But it's not really working as well as it should. Type it out in the comments with a facepalm emoji if you know why. Until then, you can just bask in my genius until I figure it out. Yep, that's right. There's one last bolt inside the oil filter housing. So once I finally got that out, it dropped down easy as pie. Weird, almost like it's meant to be that way. Now we get to the crankcase, the area where the problem is, allegedly, our current place of revelation. I start by getting all the main bearing caps loose, which is much harder than I thought it would be, honestly. Almost like stretch bolts are really tight, who'da thunk it. Then we knock these caps loose so we can see the potential damage one by one. They were bad, but they weren't terrible, honestly. Not that I've ever seen main bearings in real life before, but I expected them to be much worse due to how bad the engine sounded. So we crack on pretty literally as we crack the rod cap bolts loose so we can get to the rod bearings now. Pretty soon here, my little helper comes back and I let him have some fun with the power tools. I'm so responsible. Once we do that, we come to the real revelation.
And we found our problem.
What's the problem?
Look at that.
So it turns out it wasn't the main bearings, it was the rod bearings. If you guessed that in the comments at the beginning of the video, you win. Anyways, these were really bad, some of them basically being heat welded to the rod and the oil passages being clogged up because of it. I originally wasn't planning on replacing the rods, but now I definitely have to.
Christmas trees there?
Wow, these are super messy.
Is this bad thing?
Yeah.
Now we can get the old crank off as it's also seen better days, and we will be replacing that too. Like I said, some of these bearings were heat welded to the rods, so I literally had to chisel and pry them loose. Here you can see the damage on the rods themselves. I came up with an absolutely genius plan, and the first step in that plan was to get these little oil squirters out. My plan, again, absolute genius, not dumb at all, was to replace the rods without removing the pistons from their cylinders. Believe it or not, I hardly do. This actually worked out well for a little while, and I was able to successfully change out the first two rods this way. The last two, well, the genius himself will tell you about that in a second. For now, just enjoy pure genius at work. Enjoy it. It's hard to come by.
So I managed to do 2 of the new rods, and on the third one, piston came out, broke a piston ring. So now we gotta flip this thing over, get the head off, and do everything the right way from the top.
You heard the man. It's time to do things the right way. If he knew that, why didn't he do it that way to begin with? Some people, man. You know what they say? The lazy man works twice. Or at least they do in Spanish. El vago trabaja doble. We get to work removing these cams so we can access the head bolts. But before we get to those, we also got to take the intake manifold off because that holds the head to the block too. I hope you enjoyed watching me struggle for a bit there, because I did. I deserved it. I even tried with a regular ratchet instead of just getting the breaker bar right away. Now all the head bolts are out, we just got to give it a few taps with the hammer on each side, knock it loose, and it'll just come right off. That's when we get to the piston rings. And I don't want to bore you to death. Basically, we do that 4 times. Then we get the piston ring compressor tool thing and smack them back into the cylinder with the bottom of a rubber mallet. But here's where my genius really starts to peek its head out again. If you watch closely, you'll notice I only installed 2 pistons back in. That's because initially I was only going to change out those 2 pistons rings since nothing happened to the other ones. My thought was, I've never done this before. If I f it up, only 2 of them will be f***ed up. But then my neighbor came by and told me that I might as well do them all while I have access to them. And the first smart thing I did all video was take his advice. Now things start to get fun. I had to swap out the flywheel onto the new crankshaft, but I couldn't do it myself. So I enlisted the help of the big guns. Mama! Yes, that was Amigo's impression, and yes, I stand by it. We honestly struggled for a while until we figured out the exact technique on how to do it, and then we got things rolling.
más seguro. Pero no puedes coger bien así con eso.
La parte es que tú no lo estás... Eso es. Eso. Yeah.
Now we're ready to set everything back up, so I'm putting assembly lube on everything, installing the bearings, and then the crankshaft before torquing the spec. One main bearing at a time, starting from the center one, how it says in Toyota's manual. After torquing down each main bearing cap, the crank got a little bit tighter each time, finally not being able to move at all once all of them had been torqued. This is because I skipped one very important yet simple and obvious step. It's nothing that's gonna really affect this project negatively, just yet another genius move on my part. If you know what that step is, comment it down below. If not, you'll have to wait for part 2 of this engine rebuild. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe and have a blessed day.